Okay, hello everyone. Welcome back to Silksong. So, last episode we successfully finished the very last quest, or um, the very last side quest, which is the passing of the age. We're able to get to the top, and now we have remaining, one thing left remaining. Which is to go back to the abyss. And I guess we would need to go to Deep Docks to do that. Alright. Oh, the bench is inside.
Imagina fora.
Alright, here we go. My map is updated. Well, yeah. I wonder if there's like a shortcut to go there, but I guess not. We have to take the semi-long route. But it's not really that long. Yeah, I didn't see that. I have to go there. I do not remember having to traverse this. Oh, I took the wrong way. Wait, no, I think this is the wrong. This is the wrong room. I'm supposed to traverse downwards. Well, here we are. At the entrance of the late fight. I am at 0 rosaries, by the way. From the last time I fought it, I think Lace Fight was quite good. So I'm actually gonna do something here. Where I'm just not gonna use anything. Because I think the fight is just that good. Here it is. Lost Lace. I don't know that there's much screen shaking going on. Oh, too early. Oh, come on. It's so intense. Oh, what? Oh, oh, that is. Hey. Oh. Oh. I was too greedy. That's really nice. I noticed that she doesn't really parry past the first two stages. Like she just stops doing that. But I guess the parry is just a very easy punish. Oh, oh. That's unfortunate. That is unfortunate that I got hit there. You know, now that I'm playing with no charms equipped, I just start to value the power of charms like that much more. Alright, here we go. Oh, that is unfortunate. She does that. I don't know why she goes so far away when she does that. Oh, she does the same thing again. Oh, that's so close. Okay, I'm just gonna do a safety heal. Just wanna top my health up, basically. Okay, here we go. Oh. It's just so intense. Okay. Oh! Didn't see that. Oh! Oh, I'm such in a bad spot, I think. Oh, I pressed jump. Oh. Oh, that is so unlucky. Okay. Take.
Kestra.
Oh, oi. Oh. What? Tonight? And that's the god who informed of the little knight. So we're back in the surface now? Oh, I think this is the passing of age ending. Continue. That cannot be the ending. But that was a such an emotional final boss. Lost Lace. Um, it's a really good boss. I really, really enjoyed it, and I think what makes the boss like what I noticed when I first fought him a couple episodes ago was that the music really did carry through the boss fight. Not saying that the boss fight itself was bad, but the music really, really does its job. And the boss fight, the final boss, definitely. Oh, I also noticed that the credits is quite different than the when you just beat um, grandmother Silk. Very similar to what we have in Hollow Knight, actually, with no like no backgrounds, just straight up credits. Anyway, the Lost Lace is, I think Lost Lace is an amazing boss. Is it harder than Radiance? I think it is. It definitely is harder than Radiance. It definitely is harder than Radiance in Hollow Knight, and I'm not gonna compare anything. I'm not gonna compare it to anything past, the true ending of Hollow Knight, which is Radiance. So I'm not gonna compare it to like PV or AR, Pure Vessel or Absolute Radiance. But I think if I were to compare it to those guys, I think I think I would put Lost Lace right below Pure Vessel in terms of difficulty. Through the darkness and dangers you persevered. Thank you for exploring the world of Hollow Knight, Silksong. Let's meet again on the road ahead. Team Cherry. Thank you very much, Team Cherry. I think that 7 years was definitely worth the wait. 100% in 63 hours. I also find it quite weird, or not weird, but I find it interesting that the percentage actually depends on the number of mask shards and, well, the number of masks that you found and the number of like the silk capacity of the silk that you found. I saw the number of tools and charms and upgrades. Um that's what contributes to the percentage. But I think it's quite fitting that it contributes to the percentage because I guess it is, they're staking it through these, it's true to the Metroidvania genre. And the menu is also different surface. Definitely an amazing game. Let me actually get to Bell Home and submit some of the mementos and see what we currently have. I just kind of wish that there's like a shortcut. Oh, actually, I will need. But doing bosses like this without the without doing bosses like this without um hold on, doing bosses like this without the charms, and I guess in more extreme cases without upgrades, nail upgrades or needle upgrades, it really makes you really appreciate the boss because all of a sudden they're extremely tanky.
wir?
공무기부 준비돼봐.
That ending definitely raised some questions, because does that mean, because we see that that form of the knight is from the God Home, right? So I wonder if the God Home DLC, the God Home ending, is actually um, what is canon. And now that I think about it, I guess it's definitely for sure that it's definitely for sure that there we go. It's definitely for sure that Silksong is for sure a sequel, because we can see that we can see the knight has become one with the void, which is impossible if the knight hasn't received the void heart. But we see that the knight has the void heart, so he's definitely, and I think he is the knight, right? He's not. Yeah, he's definitely not Hollow Knight. It's not the Hollow Knight. It's definitely it's the Little Knight. Well, clearly we're missing some stuff from the Materium. I think this is probably one of the courier stuff. We're missing 4 relics and 4 mementos. But that's it for Silksong, I guess. The game is. I would say that this game is huge compared to Hollow Knight, the first one. It's definitely gonna be, I guess, a little painful to speedrun, or attempt to speedrun. Not an actual speedrun, but doing the speedrun achievement is definitely gonna take much more work, and I am definitely looking forward to something like the to like a God Home DLC, or to refight some of the bosses. And I think Christopher Larkin definitely um, did this game a really big justice in terms of the music, because I think the music, especially the name is Silksong, the music really did carry through the game. Not saying that the gameplay is bad, but the music definitely clearly amplifies uh, the gameplay. Um, if I had a hunch, I think the reason why Team Cherry took a long time is because of Act 3. It did kind of feel like Act 3 was kind of a new idea compared to Act 1 and Act 2. I wouldn't say that Act 3 was rushed. It clearly is not, because all the scenes behind it, right? Like, because of now the world is infested with a void instead of the haunting, we can see that all the background has changed can see that some, and even the enemy placements too, like with the Act 3 now, some of the enemies become void mass, some of the enemies are gone in the world, and there's this new static void masses that spawn all over the world, and it seems like they're pretty consistent, like they're hand placed by the devs, and all the background has changed. Um, and I think that is the major reason why Team Cherry spent that much time all of a sudden, like, and I think the first two acts was like I guess the core, right, the core of the game. Um, I kind of wish that Act 3 has more content, or rather, like the enemies has more, I guess, abilities, because all the enemies it seems like what they can do is pretty. They what the void gives them is pretty standard to all the enemies, right? They can shoot the projectiles sometimes. They can shoot the void tendrils, and then they can also do that big AOE around them. I kind of wish that they would put a lot, do a lot more in terms of like the different enemies. I know some enemies has like a more specific preference, like the flowers that we see in the Shellwood. But I think at that point I would just be very nitpicky because it clearly is a design from them, right? But this game is just it's just huge. I know a lot of people also criticize with how Team Cherry recently nerfed some of the two bosses, which is the Sister Splinter. I'm not sure what they nerfed from Sister Splinter. They also nerfed Moorwing from the Grey Moor, both of which are very very early game bosses. Right, they're actually like next bosses that are next to each other. But I think if I recall back then when I fought these two bosses, there's definitely a steep learning curve between those two bosses. But then I think because of those two bosses, which have kind of a steep learning curve, right? I think that before Morrowind you would fight Lost Lace, or sorry, you would fight like Lace One, which is it's definitely not easy, right? But it's not super super hard either. But then after those two bosses, Sister Splinter and Morrowind, you have to fight Widow, actually like right after Sister Splinter, and the difficulty between Widow and Sister Splinter is definitely there. And now that they nerfed Sister Splinter, I think probably very slightly. Um, there's definitely going to be some learning curve when it comes to fighting Widow, and I guess I'm referring this to like the newer players out there, in terms talking about like the steepness of difficulty. If I were to say what my favorite region is, it's really tough to say because it really depends on the criteria that you would grade it, right? Like, do you want to? Do I want to prefer it based on the music or the theme or like the difficulty? I think all the regions has its role. Sure, people say Bellwater is the most horrible region in this entire thing, and it has its reasons, right? Like the Stilken is, I think, probably the most annoying enemy for a reason. Because they need to fight in, like guerrilla warfare, right? Like they need to hide and they need to, I guess, be one with the environment. And when I say environment, I'm talking about the maggots that is in the water. Um, Utopia is definitely very cute. I think the mini games in Fleetopia is a little weird that you have to play that in order to get a percentage. I mean it's not that bad of a mini game. Like it's certainly possible with time, but it's definitely it's very different. It's very odd. Those mini games are definitely very odd because I think you definitely have, yeah, you need to beat the Fleetopia in order to get the oil, right? To get the pale oil. So I find that kind of weird. But other than that, I think finding the grubs or finding the fleas in this case, is definitely more funner, I think, than finding the grubs in Holland. I think there are actually less fleas than there are grubs in Hollow Knight. So I think I think that's quite interesting. Either that or they're probably equal. And then with this flea that we found also in the putrefied ducks that leads us to all the other fleas, it's definitely not very obvious, and it's not super hidden, but it's definitely something that players can forget about, right? So I think that's like one, I would say like a nitpicky hole, because if you compare that to Hollow Knight with the collector, like you just cannot miss it. You just cannot forget it. You see that, oh, it's when you go there, it says Sloth Tower and Sloth, and then you definitely will go to Queen's Garden. You find something what's called the Loft Key, and well, you definitely know where where the key goes. But with this one, you definitely can miss it, and I'm pretty sure you kind of need to find that. You need to find him to progress with the story. Finding the masks and the silk increased capacity is definitely also a. It's not easy. It's not an easy thing to do, but that is just related to just how big the game is. Um, in regard to the bosses, though, I think all the bosses, I can only there are only a handful amount of bosses in this game that is like that I would say not good. Yeah, actually, let's take a look at the list of enemies. I'm not sure if we can like sort them by the bosses, but I think all the bosses in Silksong is very, very well made, except for maybe except for Beastfly. I think Beastfly is definitely the only odd one out where it's definitely more of a war of attrition. And there is a lot of war of attrition bosses in Hollow Knight, right? I would say something like a Baubles, and Rage Guardian. Uh, Although I think Unraged Guardian has some fair aspects to it. Like even Grohl the Great, I think it's not that bad of a boss. It's just that the run back is definitely very brutal. But in terms of being a boss, it's it's kind of hard to defend this one. It really is hard to defend that one. And then Savage Beastfly. Savage Beastfly is definitely one of the bosses that is very. I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure Team Cherry knows what they're doing when they made it. Level lands are still ruled by great beasts. They definitely know what they're doing when they made that boss. That's what I can say. And the normal enemies, the scars, the Scar Stalker, like very clearly, right? Scar Stalker is an enemy that you find in the early game, even before you can even um I guess you would meet Scar Stalker right around when you go into the far fields, but I think you can meet them once you even just go through the marrow, right? And I think this is equivalent to, like, in Hollow Knight, this would be equal to like the Mantis enemies, right? With the theme being like the whole clan is they are soldiers, right? With the mantis larva, the mantis, like the flying ones, and then the mantis soldiers, the Scar Stalker and the Scar Scout. But then just the depth of this normal enemy, like just how many moves does this thing have? Like it can parry. It doesn't parry, but it can block. It can jump up high, and it is like, for in Hollow Knight standards, this is just as good as a boss. Or I think the I guess you can also compare this with the Moss Knight in Green Path, because they share similar complexity in terms of how it moves. And the Moss Knight does have like a shield that can block, and it has projectiles, but they definitely outdid themselves with the hunting grounds, with the Hunter's March. I mean, and then the cross. I kind of wish that I guess the silver beak craw enemies would have a little more depth, because I just cannot find them outside of the boss fight. I wish that the area, wisp thicket, would have a lot more stuff in them. It's definitely a very interesting area. When I first discovered it, like, wait, it definitely is it's a very cool area. I think the most fun platforming section for me would be Sands of Karak, though. Sands of Karak is is a very is a really fun platform. Like, I would never imagine something like that. Ah, yes. I think Cross King Khan, this coral area, definitely has so much potential. It just has so much, like, all the enemies are very, very good. They are all very, very good, and it's definitely a shame that, not in a bad way, but it's, I the only critique that I have is that I want more of them. Ruskin Khan, a lot of people say that the boss is way too easy, or it's not a good boss. But I think the idea is there, but compared to the other Act 3 bosses, Ruskin Khan is definitely it's definitely kind of too easy, even compared to Clover Dancers, right? Even Clover Dancers, I think, which I think is a boss that is not too challenging, I think. And you compare this with Nyleth, right? Nyleth or Carmelita. Carmelita is definitely up there. I think Carmelita I would rate it as the second hardest boss actually in the game. Carmelita is definitely very quite hard. The Unraveled, it would probably be my second worst boss in the game. I think in his second phase he shoots projectiles, but those projectiles are so quick, and I don't really know how would one dodge that. It's very similar to dodging, like having to dodge an enraged Oblobble. Well, where it's like it's so fast, and you're put. I think the best way to fight the enraged Oblobble, the final Oblobble, is to put yourself as far away when he does the projectile thing. But with Unraveled, he's up to your face. So, yeah, I don't know, I don't know about this boss. Cockroach Dancers, amazing boss, but I think the music is really what carried through this boss. I think the idea of Cockroach Dancers and Clover Dancers, it's a really cool idea for a boss. That's what I can say. Trobio, Trobio's a cool boss. He's really funny. Oh, and of course there's Gru's mother too, aka Brood Mother. Um, because he does the same move as the Gru's mother, but this time she has the ads of the fresh fly. It's definitely a very interesting boss. Classified Zango is he's not really a boss, right? Like he's just a DPS check, and apparently you're supposed to be using this syringe that the professor gave you to beat him. Silver Dancers and the Void. Okay, and this is where we get into like the major main story bosses. Bell Eater. I think Bell Eater I would rate him as like number 3 or number 4. But then I would think that Bell Eater is actually is a not bad of a boss. He fights fair. His fighting style is very similar to like the fourth chorus. If you decide to play safe, then it's gonna take a long time for you to beat him, but sometimes some of the windows are just not there, right? Usually, I know he was kicking my butt when I fought him the first time. Shakra is a very interesting boss fight. He fights very similarly to Seth. Not sure where Seth is, and he fights very similarly to Seth, where Seth and actually second Sentinel, but he fights a little more similar to Seth, where he would be invulnerable, not invulnerable, but he would like be disappearing, right, because of how fast he moves. Lost Garment is, I think, he is basically a void, just a void enemy, but tankier and with more variety, I guess. But yeah, well, that's really sad. Pinstress is like Sentinel, easier version of second Sentinel. Widow and First Sinner, they definitely share a theme with each other. First Sinner is basically Widow 2.0. Uh, Widow with throwing the bells, and First Sinner with using the needles. They're both really good bosses. I think First Sinner would easily be a top 5 for me. They're very technical boss, and we can see that when you first fought the Widow, like, oh, this boss is really slow, but all of a sudden, like, wait a minute, what's the as the pace picks up, Like you start to realize, like, wait, it's getting faster and faster, and even the music also gets faster too. Same with Widow. They kind of fought the same way. They even sound the same actually, but they're definitely equally distinct from each other. Both are and both are both are very amazing bosses. And first sinner, Widow, you encounter her in the middle of Act One. First sinner you encounter her in the I guess in the later chapters of Act Two because you need to go to putrefied ducks, right? In order to even unlock her chamber. Phantom Lace, Grandmother Silk, and Lost Lace. Phantom. It's really cool when you find Phantom as the first boss instead of the last judge, because when I first fought her, I feel like, oh, this, and when you go through the mist, when I first do that, like I know, like, oh, this, and when you go to Water and you go to Sinistros, right? You kind of know that, oh, I there's definitely a steep increase in difficulty. Like you felt like there's no way like this is the real path of going to the Citadel. Like you're going here for something else. But then you go to, do pile water and then you go through the mist. Like what am I getting myself into? And then finally you get into Phantom. Like, okay, we found a boss, and then it's a really fun boss fight. It is it's yeah, the boss that's similar to this would be the Lace. And again, the Phantom is a dancer type boss, right? But it's a really, really fun boss. It really is. And this boss fights has so much parry, but it teaches you the parry move when you first obtain a parry move, which is like unheard of in the Hollow Knight, right? Like you can't really parry when people say parry, it's usually like you attack the same time as the opponent as the when the enemy attacks you, and that results in a parry, which is you kind of block the damage and you also inflict damage in to the enemy. I'm not sure if that's possible in Silksong, but that's what you would do in Hollow Knight. You can see it when we fight Pure Vessel most of the time, but for you to actually have a parry move when you ready your sword, expecting an incoming attack, and you do the same move that Phantom would do. That it's an amazing feeling right there. Grandmother Silk. She is the boss that's very similar to Radiance. She even has the same moves as Radiance, right? With the flying needles, um, huge area attacks. Even the spikes that appears on the ground it's literally the same. It's literally the same as Radiance. But in terms of difficulty, I would say that Grandmother Silk is slightly harder than like Radiance. The normal Radiance, that is. But it's still a very enjoyable boss. It really is. And Lace and Lost Lace, the first two Lace boss fights, they're it's you know the first two Lace boss fights are very very good. Like it's definitely they tune the difficulty really well. The first Lace boss fight, you fight her right before you fight Moorwing, and I would think that Moorwing is a harder boss than the first Lace. And in terms of difficulty, I think the second Lace boss fight is definitely, I think, right below Grandmother Silk in terms of difficulty. Like, there's not, or rather, or at least like there's not a lot of boss fights that comes harder than the second lace in Act 2, right? And finally, Lost Lace. It definitely is a last boss fight. It definitely is. It definitely is a final boss to end Silksong. The hardest boss in Silksong, yes, but does she fight fair? I think she fights very fair. Like there is, it's, it fights much fair. It's more fun to fight her than Radiance. Definitely yes. Lost Lace is a very fun boss fight. A lot of people complain that hey, we fought Lace, we fight Lace 3 times, and the third time we fight Lace is the final boss of the game. Like, come on, like but I think there's some beauty in that design decision, right? You fighting a very familiar foe. It's just an amazing boss fight. There's a very clear difference between the first and second, and then the second and the third lace, which is the Lost Lace, right? The void attacks there, and the boss reacts differently. In what makes Lost Lace fight a genius, I think, is that the boss reacts differently based on how you dodge. The most apparent, um, the most apparent uh, move that she does is just we can look at the first and second phase with the parry, right? The parry is actually a way for us to punish the boss. So, when after she does a combo, she usually ends with a parry, and I kind of feel like it's sort of a predicting an input detecting parry, where the boss knows that we're about to attack, and so they parry, but then it leaves us an opportunity to punish actually the parry response, and we can see how that is actually a way for us to punish, because all of a sudden the boss stops parrying in the third and fourth phase. Another example would be when she does the double dash attack into an up attack, where the depending on how you dodge the double dash, if the dash I think if the boss dashes like twice in a row in the same direction, he would instead of going up, he would dash a third time trying to follow you, because that means you probably run away from the boss, right? So that's why the boss decides to dash a third time and ending it with a slash. But then if the boss dashes like back and forth twice, then the boss kind of knows that, oh, that we are dodging it by jumping, and because of that, the boss will respond. Instead of a third slash, he would jump and do that upward slash into a downward attack. And I don't really see that kind of behavior in any of the other bosses, and even I don't really see that kind of behavior in Hall Knight even. Yeah, the Lost Lace actually reminds me of NKG, and I would put Lost Lace slightly below NKG in terms of difficulty. One thing that I noticed in Silksong bosses that most of the bosses is actually weak to jumping healing. Like healing on air in Silksong is just way too strong, I think. Like even in the Lost Least fight, right? Like sure you can't really the ability to heal on air is can be a bit weaker because there are ways for Lost Least to punish that with the void attacks. But that's the only thing that she can do. Not a lot of her attacks actually like targets up the air. But then, like if you look at all the other bosses, so many of them you can just jump up and heal. So that's just one thing that I noticed. While in Hollow Knight, a lot of the bosses actually you just cannot even heal, right? When I refer to like the top three, right? NKG, PV, Nightmare King Grim, Pure Vessel, and Absolute Radiance, and even like Radiance, and even like some of the early game bosses like Mantis Lords, or like even Trader Lord. You can't really, you just cannot really heal. You can't really heal ever unless the boss is staggered. That's just I think it's not really a critique, but it's more of a I guess interesting observation with implementing a system like the binding where it's you are actually allowed to heal on the air. So I think that really I think their ability to be able to heal up in the air is really what makes Lost Lace and a lot of other Silksong bosses to be I think like easier than like Hollow Knight bosses. And I really hope that Team Cherry will, I guess, address that. I wouldn't really say issue, but it's yeah, maybe it is an issue. But yeah, that is my current review, or I guess my non-formal review right after the game. And yeah, thank you for watching, guys. Thank you for following me through this journey. And I might continue playing this, just trying to complete all the memoriams, the mementos. Well, not memoriam, but the materials. Finishing the courier and the mementos. Who knows? But yeah, thank you very much for watching, guys, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.